What's up, guys? It's Kara Corey here, registered dietitian, for another episode of Dietitian Talk. And today I want to talk about a topic near and dear to my heart, and hopefully yours as well. We're going to talk about protein. But before I get started on that topic, I do just want to say thank you to all who have voted for me so far on TigerFitness.com's YouTube People's Choice Awards. Voting is going on for one more day, and I really hope I can make it to the next round. So I need your help. Please go there now. We'll have the link in the description box below. Please go there now and vote for me and get me through to the next round. Really, really appreciate all your support. So, have other people go vote for me as well. Let's get me to the next round. So thank you for that, and let's get started on today's topic, protein. This is a common question in the bodybuilding world, I think competitor world, and for anyone who's an athlete. And this is a common question I get asked a lot as well, is just how much protein does someone really need? And it's something that, you know, being a coach, being a registered dietitian, you know, I feel like I have a bit more information on it than the average person. And there is a lot of research out there, and there's a lot of research that's still a little inconclusive as well in some departments in terms of protein. Believe it or not, in 2016, there's still some things we just don't know. But first, to talk real quick about protein. Protein is just a chemical structure comprised of nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And it actually makes up about 50% of our body's dry weight. So it's a huge component to the human structure. And for those of you watching this, you know, the common thing we think about with protein is like building muscle, getting strong, but protein has tons and tons of functions within the body above and beyond building muscle. So protein helps with digestion. It helps with transporting nutrients to and from our body cells. It helps with hair growth, fingernail growth. It helps prevent blood clotting. It helps with muscle contraction. It helps with water balance within the body, and so on and so forth. So there's tons of different functions within the body when it comes to protein. So it is crucial. It's super duper important. So when talking about protein, you know, we have a recommendation out there, which as a registered dietitian is what you learn when you go to school, which comes from the US RDAs, which the RDA is Recommended Dietary Allowance. So when you search it, or maybe you talk to a general healthcare practitioner, what they're going to tell you is the RDA for protein, the Recommended Dietary Allowance, is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. And I stress kilogram because for those in the US, I know I have different folks from different countries who watch this channel, but I'm speaking in terms of the US. Most people are very surprised when they hear that 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. In the US, we go by pounds for the most part. So think about that and do the math for yourself for kilograms of body weight. You get kilograms of body weight dividing it by 2.2 for those that aren't sure. So that tends to be a significantly lower number than what you hear in the bodybuilding world, or what you hear coaches prescribe and things like that. So let's talk about that for a second. The recommended dietary allowances, how they got to those numbers for protein. What they're going to look at is nitrogen balance within the body. That's one method of assessing protein intake and what is a safe level. So they actually generalize RDAs as safe for anyone 19 years of age and up. So it's a very generalized recommendation, and again, it's meant to be what is safe for a sedentary individual. So let's keep that in mind. These recommendations came about for a very broad age group to be safe for someone that is sedentary, just sitting here chilling on a couch like myself. Those recommendations, and when they did the testing for those recommendations, do not take into account what is needed to replenish what's lost during exercise, and things of that nature. It's truly recommended for folks just sitting on a couch. So you've got to think about that a little bit more when we're talking about athletes, endurance athletes, when we're talking about those that do resistance training, maybe even professional bodybuilders, Olympic lifters, things of that nature. Protein needs, you would guess, are going to be considerably higher. So this is something that in college, when I went to school, just to give you like a little aside, you don't talk about that when you're going through school. Maybe it's changed. I've been out of college almost 10 years now, but they don't talk about protein needs for an athlete. You know, just like BMI, body mass index, doesn't take into account bodybuilder type people. It doesn't take into account that muscle mass. So it's not something we learned about in college. We learned about the 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. And then, you know, you adjust it clinically based on other extreme things that cause stress on the body. So we would learn about increasing someone's protein needs if they had just went through surgery, or if they had any type of wound and required healing to an area on their body. You learned about adjusting it lower for folks that are on dialysis or have kidney issues. Different things of that nature, but it was never discussed protein requirements for an athlete, which I think is unfortunate, but that tends to be my passion, so I've studied it myself. And, you know, there is a lot of information out there that supports the need for higher protein requirements for athletes. Now, why would that be? Maybe most of you watching this video can already guess, but for those who are endurance athletes or do resistance training, your body is causing some trauma. You are breaking down muscle, you are losing muscle during the process of weight training or endurance training. And so your needs are going to be significantly higher in order to replenish what you've lost. Or if you're someone who is looking to gain more muscle, your protein needs are going to be a little bit higher. So there's two things that work synergistically together in order to get that, you know, that correct balance of muscle lost, or I should say protein being broken down versus protein coming in. You want to have that right balance for you, for your body, if you're someone that's trying to either maintain your muscle or increase your muscle mass. And I am keeping this very simplified, as you guys know I normally do, but there's a lot of other things that go on into that equation versus what I just spoke about. You know, there's gene transcription, there's protein signaling within the body. There's other different things that happen within the body that may influence how different we are. But in general, for an athlete, you know, your body is going to have a need for a higher protein intake. Again, I just want to mention that it does not mean that just because you eat a shit ton of protein, you're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, all right? It doesn't work like that, clearly. It doesn't. Look at me. I've been lifting for a long time, eating my protein. It doesn't happen overnight. So it is a long process for gaining muscle. And like I said, they work hand in hand together. You have to have the workouts in conjunction with the proper protein intake for your body. Very crucial for muscle protein synthesis to occur to have optimal protein intake for an athlete. So what does that recommendation look like? What would I suggest as a registered dietitian? And honestly, it's going to differ based on the individual and where they're at in their point of life, because, you know, as a more experienced athlete, your body may actually not need as much as someone who's new at resistance training. That person who's brand new may actually need more protein. So it is still very individualized. However, based on a lot of the different research I looked at and looking at some of the more top researchers with protein and their guidelines, the average range I seem to find that is common is really about 1.4 grams to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So we're talking about double what the recommended dietary allowance is for the average sedentary person. So about 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight is typically a range that's recommended for someone that's in resistance training or an endurance athlete. Basically, from studies that have looked at it, they've looked at it from the angle of what creates muscle protein synthesis. And when they've taken healthy athletes, and again, let me stop for a second for those that may comment, I am speaking very generalized for the healthy athletic individual. So if you're someone who's watching this video who has medical issues, kidney issues, liver issues, diabetes, any other complicated medical issue, please remember when I do these videos, they are very generalized for the average healthy person. So I'm not here to argue if you have other conditions that may not be indicated to consume this amount of protein. So I digress. But anyways, oh shoot, what was I just saying? Okay, so yes, healthy individuals, they've researched it and looked at what point does muscle protein synthesis occur. And when they looked at a protein intake of less than 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight, they did not see an increase in protein synthesis. And when they looked at it at the higher end, say 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight, again, there wasn't any actual benefit seen. There wasn't any additional protein synthesis occurring at that higher level. So please remember as well, more is not always better. Typically never with your diet. More is not better. So do the research and find out what makes sense scientifically and what's best for your body. So again, about that average range, I'll repeat it, it's 1.4 to 1.8. You will see different studies recommend different things, but again, I looked at a few different more current articles, and that seemed to be the range that was most well accepted within the field. So some people may say, well, and this is the other question I get, isn't too much protein really bad for the body? Isn't it bad for you? Isn't it bad for your kidneys? Doesn't it make you constipated? It can give you osteoarthritis, things of that nature. And honestly, a lot of the research that's out there that shows kidney issues with a high protein intake, those studies have been done on individuals who are already diagnosed with kidney issues. So you're not really comparing apples to apples in that scenario. Really, to speak very generally from what I can find and what I know, there is not any conclusive data right now showing that consuming protein within that range that I just stated for a healthy athlete is going to cause any kind of medical issues or damage to your kidneys. But the one thing I can say that I would recommend to anyone starting a new diet, a new exercise program, go to your doctor, have blood drawn, see what your basic chemistry panel looks like, and have frequent checkups. I mean, that's just good advice for anyone, but if you're someone who's concerned, it doesn't hurt to get those baseline numbers and kind of, at least on an annual basis, see how things look. See if your blood urea nitrogen, which is what would be indicative of having too much protein in your diet, would be altered. Take a look at your baseline and, 6 months down the road, have things retested if you're concerned. So that would be my best advice for you guys. But overall, no, as an athlete, consuming that amount of protein is probably going to help you and not harm you. Help you in the ability to help repair your muscle that you're breaking down, hopefully gain some more muscle if that's your goal, possibly improve your performance in the gym or whatever event it is that you're focusing on. Something really interesting I read with endurance athletes is very well researched that endurance athletes have an increased need for leucine, which leucine is one of the branched chain amino acids that gets oxidized during endurance type events. So that's very well known in the research that endurance athletes do need more leucine in their diet. So in general, that right there supports that an endurance athlete is going to need a higher protein diet, at least ensuring that they get more leucine in. So I found that to be very interesting because I am a former endurance athlete and never really paid so much attention to my protein needs, and makes me wonder, maybe I could have been a bit more competitive with my endurance years had I have been more mindful of my protein intake. So what else was I going to mention? Oh, the one quick thing I wanted to mention too, and again, research is still kind of like out there at best, but one of the common things that people also ask is how much can you actually ingest and absorb in one sitting? And currently the research supports that no more than 25 to 30 grams of protein in one sitting is going to be absorbed. You know, again, protein has tons of functions in the body, so there is some newer research that's suggesting that we could actually be able to absorb more than that in one sitting. And again, I am talking about the average person who is not on any type of support, if you know what I'm saying. So in general, 25 to 30 grams of protein, whether you're a wee little shrimp like me at 5'2", yes, I'm 5'2", I know I look tall on YouTube, versus someone who's 5'8" or 6'2", that apparently is what the body and the intestines can handle. However, it is still being researched, and it's always hard to know and pinpoint exactly how much one person absorbs in one sitting. To generalize that is very complicated, but that is the most newest research that I can sit here and support. So just wanted to throw that out there because that's a common question that people get asked. So I think I'm going to conclude this video. I think I've hit all the different little topics I wanted to hit. I hope you guys find this video helpful. I think it's a very interesting topic, and it's something a lot of people who aren't in the bodybuilding kind of fitness world don't really think about. And for me, being a healthcare professional working in a hospital, it's something that a lot of your standard healthcare providers don't necessarily buy into or stay on top of in terms of the research. So I hope this video finds you well and is helpful for you guys in terms of your own diet and the advice that you're getting from others. So please share this video with others if you did find it helpful. Comment below on any questions you may have that I didn't touch on in regards to protein or any other topics you would like to see for future dietitian talks. Don't forget to vote for me. Just had to throw that in there again if you made it to the end of the video. I will see you guys in the next one. My food within an 8-hour window, which means I'm fasting for 16 hours, but you don't have to do it that way. Sometimes I do a 6-hour window, and there's a lot of people that also do it in a much shorter time frame. They might do it in a 4-hour window. So it's really up to you to assess what's going to work best for you. There's no right or wrong with intermittent fasting. So you can kind of play around with it, see what's best for you. That's the way I